Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can you hear me?
Good evening, doctor. Yes, I
Yeah,
can
good
hear you.
evening. Yeah, hi. Hi, Miss Maisa. How are you?
Alhamdulillah. How are you, doctor?
Alhamdulillah. Can we alert them? Can you post something on the WhatsApp group? Perhaps they forgot or something.
Okay, well.
Thank you. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and good evening, everyone. This is me again, Dr. Sameh, and we're doing the TEFL, the TEFL series of workshops. This is our third. Inshallah, we're transitioning today from theory. We've been talking about theory for quite some time now, and we're moving towards whatever people practice and apply in class. I'm hopeful that you find the experience rewarding and informative tonight, inshallah. Okay, so let me share my slides and we are on our way, inshallah. So this is all part of the Ramadan virtual pavilion that we're hosting here or at FLS Jeddah. And the series of workshops that we're doing is called TEFL From Common Sense to Nuance. And like I said, this is our third workshop. So this is what we're doing today. We're talking about the four basic areas. And every time we talk about teaching, those four areas pop up and come to mind. So I'm asking you about them. I would like you to think and tell me about those four basic areas. If you think they are four, perhaps they are five. Okay? So what do I mean by four basic areas? Areas that whenever we talk about and practice teaching, we have them in mind. We focus on them, we train as how we can perfect their different aspects and stuff like that. So I would like you to think and tell me what these four basic areas are. So four basic, four basic areas when it comes to teaching. I think, wait. And obviously we're having a flood of people. I don't mind if we perhaps wait for one more minute or somebody else clicks. When somebody walks into the room, I want you to press any one of you. Okay? Right. Okay. So Muhammad, give us one. We said that they are four, and I would like you to give us one of those four basic areas when it comes to teaching.
I think it's important classroom management.
Yeah,
Maybe one of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a major aspect, and we'll unpack it today. And we're going to, the focus today, inshallah, will be on the different aspects of classroom management. So it is one of the four basic teaching areas, and we're going to focus on it. Okay, can we have other people? What other areas?
Planning, doctor.
Planning, yeah, planning. Don't you think that planning can come under, I don't want to spoil the other three. I don't want to say what category it can come under. But planning, of course, is very, very essential and very important. Thank you for that, Ms. Maisa. Again, for those who just came, we're talking about four basic areas. By basic, I mean essential and important when it comes to teaching.
Can I say another thing? I think
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always important at the beginning. You make a great rapport with the students and a great
Don't you think that this can come
relationship.
under what you have just said? This can
Class
come under
management.
classroom management. Because
Yes, exactly.
when it comes to managing the class, it's you manage a lot of things. You
Yes,
manage
exactly.
expectations, resources, reactions. The different facilities, of course.
Grouping, yes, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, great.
Okay. For those who, who just came, we're talking about four basic areas when it comes to teaching, and if you can lend us a hand. So teaching boils down to four basic areas. We spoke about one, which is classroom management. So Maisa said planning, and I said planning is very essential, but it can come under a category of the four that I'm talking about. So classroom management, what else?
Content knowledge.
Content knowledge, yeah, subject knowledge and content knowledge. Yeah, that's a very essential area too. Yeah, good. Hmm. What do you think, everyone?
Assessment also, doctor, is
Meant,
a basic.
Assessment, okay. Somebody was, yeah, go ahead. Rabab, Dr. Rabab.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum salam.
Uh,
How are you?
uh, I'm fine, alhamdulillah. I could just mention something that's a tiny detail, but it has been my challenge for years,
Mhm.
managing the teacher talking time.
Yeah, which would come under classroom management, right?
Yeah,
Or under giving instructions, because sometimes you give too many instructions, right? So it
too
did I
many.
spoil it by
Yeah,
saying that giving instructions? Giving instructions would also go under classroom management.
yeah,
So,
but actually, I'm not sure if this is just giving too
mm,
much instruction, but I feel the students these days something wrong with their attention span. They don't focus. Sometimes I feel like they don't understand from the first time. So I keep not just it's not elaborating, but I keep differentiating the instruction to make
mhm.
sure they understand. And
And
regardless of
sometimes
the
you overdo it, right? Because of this
yes,
perception that they wouldn't that they are not listening, they are not paying attention. They are perhaps if
yeah,
you're teaching online, you think that they are yeah, perhaps opening the room and they are somewhere else, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Well,
you're not
especially
giving
when
them the
I
benefit of the
insist
doubt,
on.
obviously.
Yeah, especially when I insist, for example, so now you got, and I ask them some ICQs and I don't get any answer from them. So I put
Mm,
the blame all on me. Maybe I didn't
mm,
explain it well. Maybe I didn't. So I keep, so at the end of the day, I find myself talked more than
mm,
need. Mm,
yes. Well,
this
this
is,
is like you said, this is one of the things that we're going to discuss under perhaps giving instructions, and giving instructions in itself would go under one of the four areas that I'm talking. What are these four areas that I'm talking about? So teaching boils down to four basic areas, and these are the four basic areas that I'm talking about: giving information, uh, the teacher's language, classroom management, and relationship with the learners. Let's first of all agree on whether you guys think these are the four the foremost areas that people consider when it comes to teaching, whether in terms of theory or in terms of practice. Okay, so let's unpack them one at a time. So giving information. What goes under giving information, everyone?
the content, I think.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So obviously it's how do you give this content? Content is information, right? So how do you give it?
Yes.
Mm. We're talking now about the strategies, the ways and means, right?
Yes. Methods, yes, I
Mm.
think.
Mhm. So you talk all the time, you explain, you elicit. So these are different ways of giving information. You ask
Yes.
questions. Yeah.
Yes.
Can we talk about that? Giving information. What is it that we do? Because if we talk, if we explain, then obviously the word explain is even frowned upon. Nobody is using the word anymore. So it dissolved into actions in class, activities that you set, right? So you don't explain the usual way or the old way, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It
And
depends on the type of the information or the content that I
Okay,
am
but
teaching.
now what I'm trying to say is that explaining alone is a thing of the past. When you walk into class and you are all bent on explaining, so this is not the way to go. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
Explaining can be an aspect, right? But there are other things that people can do. Like I said, eliciting is a form of explaining, but you're not assuming with elicitation, you're not assuming that students were born yesterday. You know that they know something, right? Because English is, especially English, because English is all over the place, right?
yes,
Yes.
sure.
Okay.
Well, the thing is, whatever information we try to give them, either in the form of or by elicitation or explanation, whatever the thing, we have to have a goal in mind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's not about just explaining. Sometimes I feel, yani, you see it in their eyes. They say, "Type, what's the end of this? We're doing this. We have to show the learning outcome from the lesson before we start."
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes I
This
feel
is
like,
where planning comes, where a very important item and area in your lesson plan would be your objectives, your aims, whether those aims are main or subsidiary, right? Yeah, yeah,
yes,
that's a good point. Yes.
even
Uh,
the units we covered from the book, for example. Yeah, I remember we did these reading passages about riddles, and it was about we just analyzed the texts. We analyzed the how we can describe everything, because this led to at the end a descriptive essay. So
mhm.
we connect everything we do in the beginning to,
With the purpose. Yeah, it has to be
yes,
purposeful, right?
yeah,
There has to be,
the lesson
uh,
outcome.
yes.
And this is something related to a baby project based learning thing in mind. يعني. This is
Nice.
احنا at the end of the lesson we need to reach this end. Always remember this. We learn the passive voice to talk about something will lead us to this end. Descriptive adjectives, adverbs, all of these descriptive ways will lead us to be used later at the end in our final project, which is a descriptive essay, an argumentative essay, or whatever.
Yeah.
So
In this case, you're going to tweak the way you explain stuff, right? Instead of explaining, you will show them timelines if you're talking about tenses, for example. So it's
exactly.
not explaining anymore, right? It's
No,
showing, not telling, right?
exactly.
Mm,
That's
mm,
it. Yeah.
nice. Right.
Yes, doctor. One important strategy
Yeah, go
in
ahead.
giving instructions is scaffolding. Uh,
Mm,
this strategy works well, especially when we have different levels of students.
mhm. Yeah, I didn't go that far yet, but that's a good point. Yes, we'll talk about those techniques in a minute. Okay, let's move from giving information to teacher's language. What do I mean by teacher's language? Do I mean the language of instruction, the language that the teacher uses in uh, teaching, or do I mean the proficiency of the teacher here?
I
Obviously, they are connected, of course, but one comes at the beginning. One is very important, and through this one, the second one comes.
I think proficiency
Yeah.
this language.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think so.
talking about, yeah, because if you're not proficient enough, there is, yeah, lots of things will go wrong, obviously. So again, this is a basic and a very important and essential aspect. The teacher's language. A teacher's language means the level of proficiency that he or she has, and obviously, the higher, the better. So with proficiency would come, moving comfortably in class, negotiating your way, navigating the challenges that you will meet in the class, right? But if your proficiency level is not up to bar, obviously, you have a problem, right? So is it doable? Is it something that I can work on? Yeah, from experience, I think we can. I mean, English is all over the place. We are all lifelong learners, even if I wouldn't assume that people who are below average would start like a career in teaching, especially if it's English or a language, right? So we're above that, and we can be way better than that over the years. I think I remember back when I was perhaps in my 20s or something. I think my English, I don't know, perhaps it's not even now, but I'm trying to say that I came a long way in terms of learning and checking, and you even learn from your students. Sometimes students speak very beautiful English with a very beautiful accent, and so the class can be a learning space for you and for the student too. So again, your proficiency is very important, and again, it takes practicing, and it takes developing your level, reading a lot, and across the curriculums, even because you also need to have knowledge. I mean, obviously, the language is a mere instrument, a mere tool. Unless you have knowledge, it's going to be useless. Okay, so the teacher's language is very important, and then classroom management, like Dr. Muhammad said, and then relationship with the learners. Um, let's talk about classroom management for a bit. Let's unpack this very big phrase, classroom man. What goes under classroom management? Yeah, I know it's big, and because it's big, sometimes you're hesitant. What should I say? What should I talk about, and what should I leave? It's so big, right? But let's try.
I think we can start
Yeah.
with planning. Yeah.
Yeah, you think that planning is part of your classroom management,
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, uh, Actually, it includes many things, as you just
Mhm.
mentioned, Samah. يعني, part of it is the time management of the class. This is also to some teachers, and to me in the past, I have to say that it was also one of my biggest challenges. I have to reach the goal by the end of the lesson. So sometimes we overdo some tasks, sometimes we don't manage the time. So when we come to the productive stage of the lesson, okay, but for example, sometimes we don't have time to reflect on the productive stage. So I took it also step by step, and I pushed the limits until alhamdulillah now, and I can say that we prepare, and the thing is also related to sometimes we need to select what to focus on. Sometimes you don't have to cover everything in the lesson.
Yes.
For example, you choose what's important and what's useful to the major learning objectives, or
Yes,
the major lesson objectives. The idea of
yeah.
selecting helps the time management.
Yes, yeah, and it's a chronic problem with lots of people. The idea of, people run out of time. And again, they don't have the objectives and the aims in mind when they first start. That's
I
why, they end up not achieving any of the goals or the aims, and this is a failure according to ELT experts. You have to meet the main goal at least. And again, sometimes you leave the students in the middle. I mean, you don't even reach the productive stage that Dr. Rabab is talking about. For them to write or to speak,
Or to speak,
you don't go that far because you were so absorbed in the intermediary stages.
exactly.
Hmm.
As we were taught in the CELTA, that productive stage should be given the most of the class time. I remember that was very important to give the students time for if you have 50-minute class, for example, not less than 15 minutes of the 50 minutes to be given to the productive stage.
Yeah,
That was
because man, this is, I mean, empowering the student so that he can speak, he or she, of course, can speak or write. At the end is what you are. I mean, you've been doing this for the whole class. You're giving them the
exactly.
language that they can use in this stage. So you have empowered them. You give them the language in terms of whether it was grammar or vocab, and
Mhm.
then time ran out. So obviously you haven't even checked whether they have fully assimilated and understood what you have been teaching them or not.
That's
Well,
Especially,
free practice
yeah.
also.
yeah,
Free
Excuse me.
especially,
practice called.
sorry.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
Just one point in this, I just need to add in this point, and so especially sometimes we over explain, especially when it's a grammar point, and we give them more practice. But the thing is, it's not about doing a grammar exercise as it is about using this piece of grammar. Using this happens in in a presentation when they speak, or it has to be shown in the writing. It's not only to give them a closed task like a gap fill exercise or something like that. No, they have to use the language.
Mhm.
Uh, this is important to
Yeah,
notice.
again, it's all because of this idea that you're not, what do they say? You're not a guide on the side. You are now a sage on the stage. You say
Mm.
everything. You monopolize the talk. You overdo things. And instead of giving only one um, exercise, you give two, for example, assuming that this is helping. Instead of, for example, giving them the answer key because this is a simple exercise and move on, you insist that you do the you do it together with people answering. I mean, it's about like I said, it's about
Excellent.
budgeting your time. It's about managing and budgeting your time. Yeah, we'll have time for more. And then the last one is relationship with the learner, whatever we mean by that. Relationships with the learners.
Isn't it the rapport that I spoke about? The
Yeah,
relationship
yeah,
rapport?
of course, rapport, establishing rapport. Yeah, it would go under, classroom management, and it can also be part of this relationship with the learner. Of course, the learner is all in all. I mean, learners justify our existence, if you like. If you don't please the learner, and you please the learner, but you don't appease him or her. And I'll talk about the difference perhaps later.
Please and
Yeah,
appease a
yeah,
great,
yeah, yes.
a great
So,
expression. I admire
yes,
that. Please and appease,
yeah.
appease.
So it's about
Great.
pleasing them and pleasing them by doing a good job. Appeasing them is about, perhaps letting them set the stage and set the tone of the class. Though they become the managers of the class and they manipulate things. No, this is obviously appeasing if you allow them to do that. And this is
It's
something
great.
that, of course, we don't do.
They
Miss
want to
Mariha,
come
go
late
ahead.
and leave
Yeah, yeah,
early.
yeah.
Um, can I add something to this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, there is a fine line also that's a bit challenging. Okay, you know, this area between, for example, يعني when you encourage learners autonomy. So, and also the other area is keeping a discipline in class. Sometimes when you set their hands free to work and you encourage their autonomy and they take the lead, this sometimes disrupts the class. And sometimes this also disrupts the understanding of other students. So
This is why I'm saying you have to walk this fine line between pleasing and appeasing.
exactly,
Right?
yes.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, Maliha, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum salam.
I just want to add into my colleagues. I actually want to second her that a teacher should be friendly but firm. So a teacher role should be, that you are not very strict or you are not just snubbing them for everything. Rather, you have to give them confidence so that they can speak, they can work, they can participate. At the same time, a teacher needs to be firm to maintain the discipline, to maintain, to monitor them, to make sure that they are working. So all these things are very important. So a teacher has like many roles. A teacher have to wear many hats.
Yeah, but
So that's what.
obviously your concept of monitoring is going to be different from ours. Monitoring, we don't monitor people. This is not a surveillance class, obviously.
No, no, no.
It's
I mean to
a
say,
monitoring, you monitor whether
yeah.
they are doing the
No,
activity
no.
and doing it right. They need
Exactly.
help, right? We'll talk
Yes,
more
yes, yes.
about
I
that.
mean to say that, for
Yeah,
instance, if there is some peer work or some group work,
yeah,
or so it's not that I just ask them to do that and I just leave the class, or maybe I just leave them on their own. So, of course, we leave them on their own, but still we need to show them that we are around. And if they
yeah,
need any help and anything, so we are with them. And when
yeah,
they see that they have to submit the work, they have to do it, so they work more diligently. So that was my point actually.
yeah. Okay,
So
thank
monitor
you
does
so
not
much.
mean it's some KGB's monitor. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely not. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so this
Little
is,
simple.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, go ahead.
I just need to ask your advice. Really, I have a maximum that I always use in my teaching. I always tell that teaching is like literature. Its main purpose is to delight and teach, or teach and delight.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
what
it's
extent do you agree to this?
absolutely. I mean, it's teaching that you're doing because you're teaching them to develop certain skills. This is the teaching or the instruction part, and the other part is to make it fun. Um, s-
Uh,
um, so for them to achieve goals, I mean, learning goals, speaking the language, of course, they have to do it in a fun way, unless they are
mm,
safe, unless they are
comfortable.
not afraid of taking risks and testing hypotheses, they wouldn't do it.
Yes, yes,
So it's
right.
a safety net that you're trying to create, and safety is about feeling comfortable in class, taking risks, experimenting with the language. And
Mm,
this is all
yes,
fun because it's a new language. See? So
yes, right.
you're doing the two. Okay, let's
Right.
move on.
Okay.
So these are the four basic areas that I talk about. That, I mean, every time people talk about teaching, this gets conjured up, giving information, the teacher's language, classroom management, and relationship with the learners. Okay, I'll give you certain practices within the class, and I would like you to give them a label from these four. Tell me this is giving information, this is teacher's language, this is classroom management, relationship with the learner. So I would like you, this is a very good opportunity for you to, it's not about answering, of course. It's about um, reading these practices And then after that, we can agree on what aspect of teaching we're talking about, what area. So read them very well. Okay, so
sorry, what's the task now?
We're identifying the area. Remember those 4 areas? I would like you to check these practices and tell me which is which. Is it giving information? Is it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone, what do you think? So which area are we talking about? I don't see you. I mean, yani come to the mic and say, or I can't see you. Rather. So identify the area.
Is it a relationship with the students?
Absolutely, it's relationship with the students. Yeah, very good. Okay. So let's talk about your relationship with the students. Do you do let me ask you about what resonates well with you. Something that you do and you insist on doing all the time. Now, all of them are very important, treating students equally, being approachable but an authority, not to favor the outgoing and contributor, knowing your students' names and use them in a regulated way. I know that you do, but perhaps one of them resonates with you more than the other. And if you ask me, it's about being approachable yet an authority. This is me, for example. I am approachable. I am part of their WhatsApp groups and everything, but I set limits. They don't, for example, write messages after 10 p.m., for example. I'm approachable because I am with them in the WhatsApp group, but I set my own limits. How about you?
For me, really, the last one, I prefer the last one. Of course, all of them are great, but as you said, that you prefer sometimes. That's to know, and I like it. I found it really, it's very effective to call students by names.
Yeah.
Even the weaker ones, the great one or excellent students, that's okay. They are working. Even the weaker students, when I call them by name and they think I am monitoring them and I am paying attention to
Yeah.
them, caring
Yes.
for
I mean,
them.
giving them names when you use their names.
Yes,
What does this do to their morale? What do they think? Why would we use their names?
they feel they are special. I think
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know he knows me by name. Oh, that's a great. There's relation between us. Great. They
So
feel friend.
you're dealing with them as individuals, people
Yes,
who have the minds of their own, independent. They are entities, not numbers, right? Because
yes, exactly.
we tend
Not
to
numbers.
forget that, especially in online classes. Sometimes the
Oh,
names are not there.
yes.
Okay, but perhaps it's your duty to kind of try to train yourself from the first 2 classes so that you can recognize their names. Like
The
now, for example.
the
Uh,
sound. Yes.
yeah, I know that this
Voice.
is, I can recognize Dr. Muhammad's voice. When Maisa speaks,
Yes.
I can recognize her voice. When Maliha speaks, and so on and so forth. Okay?
Yes.
Instead
Great.
of saying part-time tutor number, this is,
Yes.
yani, can even be insulting, right?
Distancing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it creates distance, true. Okay. So it's also about treating people equally, right? Treating people equally, it means that you don't allow some people to dominate the class. If you have a pet student, for example, we all have pet students because they are very good. Their standards, I mean, are high and everything. But we shouldn't be kind of dragged to this area where you have preferential treatment to some at the expense of others, right? Again, this is very relevant to point number 3. Do you tend to favor the outgoing and contributive? People who contribute all the time, people who monopolize the talk, and you leave the shy and the silent. This is also can be very what demoralizing for the shy and the silent. It can alienate them even more. Remember, I think we do this uh, practice every semester. I send you an email giving you what I think is students' rights. It's their Bill of Rights, if you like. Remember, and one of those points is about students not speaking, and you give them the space. You don't force them to speak because, silence is a statement in and of itself, right?
Yes, sure, of course. Yes,
Hmm.
of course.
Yeah, yeah. But of course, it doesn't mean that you don't try. If everyone decides to be silent for whatever reason, you end up having an echo chamber where you're talking to yourself, right? So again,
Yes, of
it's
course.
about walking this fine line between respecting their silence and also encouraging them and motivating them to speak and participate.
And we revisit them. When I ask them once and they prefer to keep silent, I respect that for one time. And we revisit until at the end they have to say something. They have to participate because participation also is something important in class.
Yeah, and it's about. I mean, if people insist on this is the role and this is the part that learners profiles do at the beginning of the class or at the beginning of the semester.
Mm.
You check, you collect as much information as you possibly can about them, so that you can have profiles of them, so that you know how to approach every and each one of them. I know sometimes it's a physical impossibility given the fact that now, of course, we have numbers and everything, but I mean, you try to the best of your ability within the time set for you.
Sure.
So again, those learners profiles that you create at the beginning of the semester can help you, especially with those timid and shy students.
Excuse me, doctor.
Yeah, go ahead.
One day I asked students, what makes you not speak English?
Mm,
And the majority of answers were because we don't have the enough vocabulary to
mm,
support our answers or speech.
mm.
So a part of this is the lack of the store of vocabulary from the side of the student. So I think with more motivation from the teacher's guide, we can help students to speak, especially the shy ones. They are afraid of
Again,
making mistakes
you
once
said
they speak.
something. I mean, they are now guiding us. They are telling us that we don't have enough vocab to speak. And this is actually
Right.
our role. I mean, I don't ask them to speak or participate unless I have given them the necessary vocab within the same class. Okay? So it's about asking some people to participate, those who know already, and those who don't know, you go and visit them and ask them to speak after you give them the language through exercises and everything. See?
Yes,
So
that's
yeah,
right. But
yeah.
sometimes they have to discuss a topic, or they have a role play or a discussion question. So they need
Yeah, if you start,
a store of
and I'm sorry, if obviously you have 2 hours. We're talking about our classes, and you have 2 hours. If you ask them to engage in discussion uh, during the first 15 minutes, obviously you're not doing them justice, right? So you
correct.
would,
Yes.
you would, a better way of doing it would be eliciting. Eliciting is not discussing things. It's, you know, taking words from them, creating this safe space for them so that they can venture further. And then after 15 minutes or 20 minutes, they are going to start to speak. See? So it's gradual. You don't do it right away, whether we're talking about speaking or even write. That's why it's with very good reason that we're keeping the productive stage where they can speak or write to the end of the class.
Yes,
Because by
yes.
the end, they will have enough language, whether it's vocab or the grammar, to start speaking. And obviously, it depends on the level. It depends on your aims. How much speaking are you expecting, and how fluent and how accurate you're expecting them uh, to be at this stage of the semester, at this stage of the lesson. Yeah, Noor, go ahead.
Yes, doctor. I think that this point is also part of the planning and time management in class. Because if I feel like the students are not motivated enough to speak or to participate because of their lack of vocabulary, for example, so I can give them the tasks in advance. Maybe I prepare a large portion of the unit and then I ask them that you can prepare it and we are going to discuss it next week. So you can I give them like a chance to maybe to Google something, to write, for example, something, and then they can participate in class. And I have tried this many times, and I found that they are participating in a fairly level or a fair level. They are more motivating or more motivated right here. So I think that participation is it's like a controversial topic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want the participation and speaking
Yeah,
to be um, a goal in itself. It's a means,
yeah,
not an end, right?
and- yes,
Yeah, it
and
has
oh
to be natural. It has to come. The
yes,
logical order of things would be that you give them the language within the same class. Okay, this
exactly.
is your part. You give them the language. Like I said, so many ways you can do that. I mean, elicitation, perhaps explaining if you think that they don't know. And then comes the stage where you kind of prompt them to participate, and with participation comes whether participation will take the form of writing something, speaking.
Exactly.
Yeah. It comes, I
Th-
mean, participation comes in different shapes and forms. Yeah.
yes, and
That's
this
triple P, I
maybe
think. Yeah, go ahead.
Mm.
yes. I mean, I think like this is what was said by Dr. Rabab at the beginning of class, that she can recycle the information in many ways. So the students can connect the ideas, how they can, for example, use this information in multiple skills. Because the students sometimes take the information as fragments. They are not good at connecting things together. So this also requires the teacher at some point to teach them how to, for example, how to think logically about things, how to connect ideas together, how to brainstorm, and create connections so that you
Yeah,
can use.
you don't teach this. This is a trajectory that you go on. It takes you're providing a model, and you don't provide the whole model in one class. Uh, you take it a step at a time, right? You don't
Yes,
even make them feel that you're doing that. I mean,
Yes.
but they can feel that you are logical, you're doing things in a certain order, you're organized. They can learn that. But obviously, this is not your main aim, right?
Yeah.
Because that would be a lot on your plate if you're teaching logic and you're also teaching language. Sometimes they get confused and you end up not achieving your aims, whether semester aims or lesson aims.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you for it. Noor, let's move on. So, so we have established the fact that these are practices that we do, and they would go under relationship with the learners. How about this one? I would like you to read it and take your time, please.
Is it okay?
So which of the four areas are we talking about here?
Teacher's language.
Okay, okay. So are you always understood first time? Do you use pitch in English? Do you mumble and mutter? Is it clear from your voice tone what you intend? Let's talk about us. Obviously, it took us some time to reach a stage where we are understood first time. It took us some time to not use pitch. By pitch in English means not non-standard English. You know, mumbling and muttering like what I'm doing now, using fillers a lot. You see, I mean, يعني. Again, they have, of course, strategic goals, and we use them strategically to keep the listener at bay and to also kind of sustain his interest because you're thinking of something. And is it clear from our voice tone what is it that we intend to say or do? So let's talk about scenarios where you found yourself unable to communicate with your students, whether because you were perhaps it was entry level teaching that you were engaged in, and you were perhaps shivering, embarrassed from the experience teaching for the first time, and that would impact your English, right? So can we talk about scenarios like this? We have all been there. It it takes time to keep the class afloat in terms of your own language, um, not other things. Have we had scenarios where sometimes a student comes and tell you this is not the way to pronounce a word, and you, in all humility, you would accept that and you say, "That's fine, thank you for it."
Um,
Mm,
uh, okay, I guess I'm unmuted. طيب. As to this point, I can mention 3 points actually. Well, number one, the idea of muttering or mumbling, for being embarrassed because of the first teaching experience. This was long ago. I don't actually remember when was that. But the point of when students argue about the correct pronunciation of words, this happens all the time. But the thing is, this happens all the time because sometimes we stick to the British accent, the British pronunciation. This is the RP, but they learn American English, and here comes
Yeah.
the difference. And they argue. The thing is, they argue. I told them once that to sit for an IELTS exam, for example, you have to be ready with 3 or 4 different
varieties
dialects.
of English. Yes, absolutely.
Exactly. Exactly. And I remember one student was argued with me about the correct pronunciation of president or precedent. One is a noun and the other one is an adjective. So yeah, they argue. But the thing is, and even sometimes I just say it's easily and openly. Check it on Google. This is not to test me, but it's okay, no problem. Even if I make a mistake, let's yalla correct it together. It's not the end of
Yeah.
the thing, not the end of the world.
It's about the attitude you take towards it. If
Yeah,
yeah, yes,
very
it's
easy.
if you stand your ground, and obviously it can be a learning moment, a teaching moment for everyone. They would take it that you know what you're doing, obviously, right?
Yeah, of course.
Mm, mm,
Another incident that is it hostile or hostile? It is hostile.
mm,
No, we know it's a hostile. طب we can check
mm,
it on Google. يعني let's have some
mm,
يعني إذا اختلفتم في شيء فردوه in language to Google. Let
mm.
Google
Yeah,
read it.
I mean the idea, and if we speak specifically about hostile and hostile, the two of them are correct.
Yeah, but sometimes,
Mm,
and for example, a student also asked me about I am seeing or I see.
mhm.
Seeing, should we
Again,
see
I
I
mean,
G or
yeah,
not?
yeah, and sometimes, yeah, they take you out of, yeah, you have to also walk this fine line between answering and not disrupting the class, not keeping to your aims, because obviously they are creating aims. So the class will turn, if it's your aim is, for example, writing, they are turning it into phonology and pronunciation, which is obviously something that you don't want because you have aims and you have to meet them. They don't set the aim. Remember when we said that we shouldn't allow them to set the tone of the class, right?
Sure.
It's your
Mhm.
class, not. So
Not
it's
just
about
about.
walking, yeah, walking this fine line. You don't want to lose face by evading the question, and that would create the impression that you don't know. Well, there's obviously nothing wrong with not knowing, but it's about how you say or how you behave, and how to have this attitude that you're learning like everybody else.
Yeah, we just downsized the
Uh,
problem. Yeah, it's not an
yes,
argument. It's just in
yeah,
Google with that
yes,
said. But the
yes.
idea related to the grammar point, it was in the tenses. I guess this was in Unit 2. But tenses, yes, Unit 2 or Unit 1, I don't remember actually. But yes, I am. Is it I am seeing or I see? But the idea of the verb to see. See has
Mm,
different meanings. I am seeing
ah,
my doctor tomorrow. It
mm,
doesn't mean I have the ability to see my doctor tomorrow. When
mm,
it means just explaining the
mm,
meaning of the word, the verb see, when to use it, in which context, what does it mean, what other verbs we can use to
mm,
replace it in this context, and you have the same meaning. But this was something also for them controversial. And I
ah,
feel like that as if you said then we don't use see with ing, but in this context we can use it with ing. So here the teacher is making a mistake. يعني
yeah.
here you're
Mm.
contradicting yourself as if they had one on me. And I feel like this environment actually I hate in class. So maybe when
Yeah,
this happens,
sometimes you, I mean, because of your and the level of experience that you now have reached, you can simply put a disclaimer because this is actually a fact about the English language, the fact that it is full of irregularities.
mm,
So you need to put this disclaimer early on, perhaps. And that can help you. And then when they come in the middle of the semester and they ask about something controversial in terms of pronunciation, you tell them, "See, I told you at the beginning that we are, I mean, we are in for irregularities because this is the nature of the English language."
I remember in
Mm, mm,
Chomsky's book Introduction to Linguistics, I guess it was in the first chapter in the book, language is arbitrary. We just take it as I remember this word, and it's
yes.
fixed in my mind, yes. But we just learn it as English people use their language. We take it from them. We try to analyze, but of course there are rules, but
Uh-huh.
there are also exceptions.
Yeah, of course. I mean, pronouncing certain words that I mean, when you say present and present for it, this there is obviously a rule for it, whether you're using it as an adjective or using it as a verb. Of course, and I'm talking about where the stress would fall, for example.
Yeah,
There are
sure.
rules, of course, yes.
A perfect
Um,
and the perfect, the progress and the
yeah,
progress, and
yes.
so on, a long list. يعني.
Yes,
Sometimes
but again,
when we,
it's about not being dragged where you're going to spend the class talking about whatever I deem irrelevant because it wasn't part of my original plan. I have a
Mhm.
plan, whether it's physical or mental, that has specific aims, and the success of my class would depend on whether I have covered one of those aims or not. Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Rabab. I think somebody was raising her hand. Maliha, or did you raise your hand?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
I just want to add in that I always take it as an opportunity. For instance, if some of my student ask me about some words pronunciation and ask me whether if this is the correct pronunciation or this one, so I just quickly open Google and show them that see this is the British pronunciation and this is the American, and it gives me the time to explain them quickly that we have different varieties of English and there can be different pronunciations, but as long as we can understand the main thing, so that is our purpose. And mostly in educational settings we use British English, so that is why in our classes we try to use the pronunciation of British um, English words. So, for instance, there are many words which they ask for, and there are many different expressions and different words. So, probably we can just quickly train them to find out and see. So, I tell my students to quickly Google and check whether this word is the British word or the American
So you
pronunciation.
consider it as a teaching moment where you only you guide them once. You
No,
teach them how to look up
mhm.
the word, and then
Yes,
next time, if we're locked in this kind of controversy about the pronunciation of this
yes,
or that word, you go on your own and perhaps come back
exactly.
and tell me
Yes.
what happened with you,
Yes,
right?
I train them and then I ask them. For instance, if they are confused for anything, I say, okay, now just open Google and check and let me know and let all of us know.
Yeah,
So
that's
I just give this to the student and they come up with the answer and the
nice.
explanation.
Good. That's a good strategy. Let's move on. So this is about our English, which obviously develops over the years. I'm sure we're not the same people in terms of pronunciation and fluency, the same people that we were perhaps 10 or 15 years ago. We also develop, we are also learners and speakers of the second language, and we learn from our classes, with our encounters, with textbooks, right? How about this one? I would like you to read this one and tell me which area are we talking about. Take your time, please. So do you always give the right information about language? Do you always give the right information about skills? Do you listen closely to what your learners produce and correct when necessary? Are you confident that you have analyzed what you teach? So which area are we talking about?
Giving information?
Absolutely, it's giving information. Yes, it's about giving information. Okay. So information, as you can see, can be language, and of course, by language, uh, we mean grammar, we mean vocab, we mean discourse. And by giving the right information when it comes to skills, we speak about the four skills, right? And also there is this, people put lots of premium on the idea of analyzing the language before you teach it. Why? Why do you think this is important? We even have sheets for that. Sometimes you have to create a sheet for, especially the language. It's, I don't remember, it was called language analysis sheet, I think. So why do you think you have to analyze the language before you teach it? Every class, if your aim is grammar, which is obviously language, and if your aim is vocab, which is also language, why do you have to analyze the language? Language analysis, if we're talking about lexis or vocab, would be that you check the meaning of the word, that you also check what part of speech, uh, um, I mean, the different part of speech possibilities, the morphology of the word. If we're talking about the language in terms of grammar, you need to also check its different possibilities. And like I said, you normally have a sheet, a language sheet, where you analyze the language. Why? Why do you think it's very important that we analyze the language before we teach it?
I think to anticipate problems
Yeah,
that may
yes.
happen, and so
It's
be
about
ready to solve
anticipating.
them.
Yeah. This is very important. You use the sheet in order to anticipating problems, and obviously problems, we're talking about language problems, right? Not
Yes, of
not
course,
yes,
problems
yeah,
related to
yeah,
the target language, of
yeah,
course.
بالظبط, absolutely, yes. So yeah, you're anticipating problems this way. So if you anticipate the problems, you're ready with answers for those problems. You're ready for alternatives for those kinds of challenges. Um, Again, it gives you insights into the language itself, because you're going to consult a dictionary or perhaps another resource. It's going to add to you. So when you read more about what you're going to teach, you're going to also feel more confident, right? Again, you know that this area can be a little bit murky, and it can be a little bit uh, problematic. You're anticipating that students may spend more time than is required on it, not understanding. You think of ways, you're preparing yourself. Yeah, somebody else wanted to say something.
It's a part of a lesson planning
Yeah,
that we
yeah,
plan our lesson and we just see the language, what we need to teach, and what information we should have for that. For instance, if somebody asks us a question, so we are better equipped with the topic and whatever
yeah.
we
It's
have to
yeah.
teach.
I mean, I can. Yeah, planning can be all of that together with this special preparation for the language. Again, like Dr. Muhammad said, this is anticipating, issues and problems. You know that in the language, your students have this issue, and this may not go well with what they know about the language. So you're expecting those problems, like when we talk about using the pah in talking, which is almost absent in Arabic, or perhaps Egyptian Arabic for that matter, to be more specific. When we talk about the endings and ed and the ta. So these are potential problems that you may encounter, so you should be prepared for them by analyzing the language of the lesson. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's move on. Okay, read this and identify the area. So do you have to repeat and repair your instructions? Do you know why you're monitoring activities? Do you often run out of time? Can you confidently handle all the technological support available to you? So where are we? Which area are we talking about?
That's classroom
Classroom
management.
management?
Yeah, absolutely. It's classroom management that we're after here. Okay. Again, it takes time when it comes to giving instructions. Sometimes your instructions are very lengthy, and sometimes they are overly polite. Sometimes you're hesitant while giving them. Sometimes know you know what monitoring is, but you're actually not practicing monitoring the way it should be done. There is obviously a reason and a purpose and a philosophy behind monitoring activities. We have this chronic issue of running out of time. It happens with all of us. And again, when we talk about technology, sometimes we get stuck, right? So why? Why do we monitor activities? What is it? Uh, do we monitor people, or do we monitor people or things, or both, or what?
Of course, we don't monitor people. We're not there for this. We monitor the activity. We just need to make sure that the target language is used, the focus point of the lesson is being used. This is what we monitor, actually. We monitor
Okay,
the...
so monitor would entail, if you're
Mhm.
saying that we're monitoring activities, it means that you set an activity, right?
Mhm. Yes, sure.
Which also means that you divide your students into groups and pairs, right? Am I correct in
Yes.
assuming that that should happen for monitoring to make sense, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Right. What is our behavior in or while monitoring? What is it that what are the do's and don'ts in monitoring?
Wallahi, it depends. Sometimes, well, number one, we monitor, of course, to make sure that the objectives of the activity are achieved. For example, if this is uh, like a pair work activity, every student is aware of his or her role in the activity, and they are doing it correctly. The target language is used. So we set, of course, we give instructions. It's not about command repairing instruction as much as it's differentiating the instruction to make sure that all the students got the idea behind the activity, and they know, everyone knows what I will be doing now. Once we say yalla start, everyone knows what to do. It's we say it's not repeat, but we differentiate, and we ask ICQs, instruction checking questions, to make sure that they got the idea behind the activity. Once we say yalla start, they start the activity. Oh, we have to be around. all of them. We have to be here and there. Sometimes when we see something crucial in the activity, we interfere and we correct it instantly. Sometimes we take notes and then we give a feedback later. And also here, I guess it's important to mention the feedback role and how to give the feedback.
Yeah,
Of course, Rama,
we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, more. Let's focus on monitoring. Part of your monitoring would be that you're, collecting impressions and perhaps taking notes yourself, so that when you go to the feedback stage, you have content, you have something to talk about,
of course,
right?
yeah. But
Mm.
yeah, of course. But to monitor, sometimes even I participate with them in the activity. Sometimes if it's a game, for example, I take a role myself to play with them. Uh, so it's a part of having fun while learning.
Yeah,
Um,
it's about,
and
again, it's about, you brought a very interesting idea, the idea of being with them. You don't want
sure.
to to be obtrusive, to be too looming, because obviously this can be very intimidating. And I wouldn't recommend the idea of being of completing, for example, if they are two and you want three, you become the third, because sometimes you're creating inhibitions. You are the teacher, and some of them may be reluctant to speak because you're there. That's why we're saying that you shouldn't be looming, let alone being part of the group yourself. See,
Oh,
that
yeah.
that has to be strategic. You need to think about it, whether you should do it or you shouldn't, because part of it would be that you are monitoring them from a distance so that they don't feel that you're there. And some of them wouldn't use the language and venture and take risks with the language.
Well, the lesson of my life, actually, I don't disagree. I don't disagree 100%. I agree to some point, but um, uh, personally, this is me. And no, I like more to be among the students sometimes. If it's a per work task and there is يعني a left student at the end after I do the task with the student and then replace myself with another student who did it with a different one. And so I just play with them. I participate. So this is me.
Yeah, it's if it's playing and it's you're trying to also create, a safe atmosphere and where fun is there. Yeah, and then there is obviously nothing wrong with that. And the idea is that if it's a serious activity and you have aims and goals, and one of them would be for them all to speak, you're going to notice that one or two of them are not participating. It's not that they don't know, it's simply because every time you loom, you become close, they stop talking, especially with girls. Some of them are by nature shy. See?
Yeah, so
Uh,
sure. Of
mm,
course. As I told you, I cannot
mm,
disagree. But
mm.
even with those students, I encourage them to talk. I encourage them to give the correct answer, to say the answer, whatever answer, not the correct. And whatever they say, I praise. يعني regardless of it's
Mm.
correct or incorrect, I just praise. And then we say together, oh, can we improve it? Can it be better? So we can just add any touch or make it correct. And I encourage them to say the correct answer. And we praise their participation. So I guess the teacher has to be part of it. This is my point of view. The thing is, so what's the other way of doing monitoring? And it was just to stay aloof in the class and watching
No, no,
them.
we're not. No, we're not saying aloof, and because you have. I mean, why are we monitoring in the first place? Would be that you're making sure that they are on task. You're
Sure.
making sure that not one single person is monopolizing the token. Everybody is listening. You're also checking whether they are halfway through or they need more time. You have different roles to play while monitoring. You're collecting information. Yeah, the gaps that you're going to talk about in the feedback stage. See, see how
Yes.
many roles you're playing, how
And
many
also
things. Yeah.
Also important in
And
the while monitoring, if it's a group work activity, for example, those shy students will be totally silent if it's a group work activity. So I
again,
have
why it's not plenary? Why are we doing the exercise in groups and pairs? Obviously, there is a wisdom behind it.
To have more time
The
for
wis
monitoring.
the wisdom behind it would be for the students to be together so that they can take risks. They can test hypotheses. They can um, talk on their own. They can use the language because if it's plenary, if it's not group work or pair work that we're doing, it's going to be me or you speaking all the time in front of them of everyone, right? So that's why we're dividing them into groups and pairs so that they can like I said, venture and can use the language, and then I mean, your role would be to monitor them so that you can provide the support they need if they need support, along with the other roles that I told you should play. I mean, collecting data about the gaps that you hear or you see, preparing for the feedback stage, stuff like that. This is very interesting. Obviously, we're going to talk more about it when we focus on classroom management, which what we are going to do now, inshallah. Again, this idea of running out of time, it's chronic with everyone. And this is what I notice uh, with myself, given the fact that I teach literature. If I switch, and sometimes I do in summer, and I teach language classes, and yeah, I run out of time. And I think it's chronic with me. Again, because in literature classes, you are a broken radio. You're what? An anchor or a muzia, where it's a radio kind of thing, where nobody is stopping you. And
more like
obviously,
lecturing.
excuse me?
More like lecturing.
Yeah, this is exactly what I do in the language classes when I shift to
You're
language
giving a
classes.
Okay, and so like as if you're giving a speech.
No, not a speech. I mean, you're giving, literature classes are about storytelling, is about giving examples, is about, you know, leaving yourself to yourself, obviously. But you kind of go to different places within the same class, and nobody's, like I told you, is stopping you. When you go to language classes, obviously, language classes is about logic, is about organization, is about having aims that you have to meet. This is what we learned, and I and I learned this when yani, when I was old. Again, because of my background, the fact that I am a literature guy. So again, I noticed it with myself, and I also noticed it with even my colleagues whose background are different even. So obviously it's chronic unless you work on it. It's it wouldn't go away. It takes time. This is perhaps one of the most difficult aspects of teaching, the idea of keeping to the time and meeting the aims that you set for the lesson. So do you guys share the sentiment? Do you think that running out of time is one of the foremost weaknesses that lots of us have or share
Uh,
or used to have?
Ultimately, of course.
Mm.
Really, that's I'm struggling to finish. the lesson that I plan to finish before times comes in, and students tell me, and I always tell them that's pragmatics. They ask, "What time, doctor?" I say them, "Oh, that's pragmatics, not semantics." What time? It's 2 o'clock. That's semantics reply. The literal meaning is 2 o'clock, but really they mean so
This is the
that's
end of
time.
the class. Yeah.
The end of the class. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes, and I always also I fall in this. I feel in this
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
in Celta also when I
Yeah.
was doing Celta.
Yeah.
Please.
It's a trap that we all fall into. Let's talk about the reasons. Why are we doing that? Why do we run out of time? Let's have people talk about that. If you are, then sometimes you're not aware that you run out of time because nobody's monitoring you. Nobody, that you need somebody to observe you to feel um, that uh, that this is happening with you. And sometimes people are under the impression that they are doing an excellent job by by mounting Jum'ah pulpits every time they walk into class and they preach and they turn the class into a Jum'ah sermon. And obviously, this is one reason why they run out of time. Sometimes they overdo it. Sometimes they are not being selective when it comes to the exercises and the activities they set. Sometimes they set unrealistic, timings and times. So many reasons. So if we have people who run out of time, and this is something that we shouldn't be ashamed of.
Not at all.
Yes.
What
Excuse me, doctor.
As long as you're working on it, that's fine. I'm working on it, but مش عارف بالتالي لغاية ما أطلع معاش. Uh,
here
Excuse me,
no,
doctor.
yeah, go
Uh,
ahead.
it
Yeah, nice.
it happens, or it happens sometimes with my or in my one of high level classes,
Mm.
because more and more students wanted to be engaged, and they wanted to participate and express themselves. So it happened that I ran out of time.
Yeah, but didn't we agree that you set the tone that your aims do not necessarily coincide with their aims? They have their own aims, but your aims should override theirs, right?
But when I when
Uh,
I when I see my students want to speak English and practice speaking,
mhm.
I love to seize the opportunity. It's a
Uh,
success
at
for
at
me.
at what expense? يعني are
At the
we
expense of
uh,
fluency.
uh, I mean, at the expense of, you're going to focus on that part, and obviously it's going to affect the entire trajectory. You have a plan, right? You have
It's a
goals and
general
aims,
objective to be achieved, that they speak the
but
language.
it's not the time. You need to choose the right time, right? So no, you shouldn't be. Yeah, that's good. I mean, the idea that they want to talk. I mean, but they don't decide when to talk. You decide for them,
It's according to
right?
the unit pacing or the
Yeah, but
exercises that.
don't. Yeah. And if you're sitting, for example, 15 minutes for this whole activity, I mean, for them to speak and to use the language, if it exceeds 15 minutes, you should go. I mean, you should, because obviously you're not going to reach the final or the last stage.
Yes, I agree,
The
but
last,
but
no, the
that
last
doesn't.
stage is about them speaking or writing, which is productive. If you don't go that far, it means that you haven't achieved. It's mere noise that you're
That's
hearing.
not. Mhm.
See?
Exactly, but it makes me
Mm.
happy when I when
Yeah,
I
that's good.
see my students speak.
Yeah, I mean, ask them to speak at the end of the class. I mean, do what you're supposed to do at this stage, Okay, obviously they're going to speak, but instead of speaking for 15 minutes, they speak for 5 minutes, the time that you realistically set for this activity, and then tell them that at the end of the lesson, there is a whole stage where they can speak or write, depending on the objective. See, it's about you prioritizing things because it's about priorities. You need to set priorities, of course. They are the same students that you're happy with. They are not going to leave you. If they can speak now in the middle of the class, they can also speak at the end of the class, right?
Exactly.
Okay, طيب, let's move on.
I have a reason
Yeah, okay.
for me from my experience.
Yeah,
It's
go
about
ahead.
vocabulary. Vocabulary actually, if I don't monitor myself, if I'm
Mm.
not aware of it, but can waste the whole class time. Sometimes when I plan the lesson, I give 5 to 7 minutes to the vocabulary part. If I don't monitor myself, I can spend the whole class 20 or 30 minutes explaining vocabulary
You mean
because
you have a soft spot for vocabulary? Yani of all
yes,
the other skills and language, you like vocabulary. This is what you're
it's
trying to
not that
say?
I like. It's not
Mm.
that I like. It's actually sometimes I feel that vocab needs the. Of course, this is this is not correct, but I feel that it needs uh, um, big part of the class time because I don't only introduce the word in the book, but also I introduce the word the family, and I teach them
Is it
the
why would you do that? Is it part of your aim or what?
no, this is the trap I fall in every time.
You think that you should do that when you shouldn't, because
Ah,
it's
yeah,
going to take,
exactly.
yeah.
And sometimes I ask them to use the word in sentence,
Mm,
especially when the word has different meanings, like the word the
mm,
bank, for example. Here
uh-huh,
we mean the side of the river. Use it in a context that, and I
uh,
ask them to use it in an example that ensures that they got it, they
uh-huh.
understand now, they know. And I always say it's not about learning. Sometimes they just translate the word and that's it for them. خلاص, we know the word. It's about
Mm.
using the word in the correct context because
Yeah,
it
but
tricks.
yeah, if it's part of the plan, obviously when you teach vocabulary, you have stages. Yeah, it's me. Remember, it's called it's me.
MFB.
Yeah,
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 it's
MFB.
it's
exactly.
meaning,
Form,
pronunciation
Form,
and
pronunciation.
form, right?
Yeah.
pronunciation, yes. Mm.
Yes.
So you're
MFB.
doing it, but obviously you're overdoing it.
Yeah.
So
Well, this
yes.
is one of my weaknesses in classes.
Mm,
Now, this is like a therapy session, I guess.
mm,
And I'm
yeah.
cleansing myself. And now these are my mistakes in language teaching.
Yeah, I mean, knowing, يعني the first step towards, recovery or what or cure would be that you know what your problem is. And obviously,
Yeah.
when somebody is sick and he is denying, he or she, of course, denying the fact that he is sick or he doesn't know that he is sick, he wouldn't seek help. He wouldn't think about it, and then obviously it's going to. We're moving from a stage where it's worse, we're moving from bad to worse, obviously. But again, self-awareness is very important, and I congratulate you on that, yeah, Dr. Rabab. Thank you for that.
And
Thank you.
really, just a minute, Dr. Samh, I need to
Yeah.
comment here. That's really one of the greatest benefits of these sessions that we are having now. Really, it improves self-reflection, and you start to revise your methods and to check your methods, which is best, which is not.
Yeah,
So how
I
can
keep
we
telling myself
improve?
and everyone I know that, workshops are not about teaching you something new because you already know. You're a veteran
Yes,
teacher,
exactly.
you've been teaching for quite some time, even if you're not, you don't have 20 years under your belt, like they say. I mean, you still know how to open books and read and do research and everything. Workshops are about sharing, best practices, is about opening, is about reflecting on the whole experience, and this is actually what I think we're doing now. You don't know how much I benefit from those workshops. In terms of, first of all, preparing for them and reflecting on what happens in them, the different beautiful insights that you guys bring to the conversation. You're shedding light on areas that I sometimes never think of. But it's amazing what we are all doing here. Yeah. At least this is what I feel. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. We learn a lot here. Thanks.
Let's move on. Okay. This is what we just spoke about, the idea of self-evaluation or self-awareness. So know thyself, of course, this is Socrates. Let's talk about our strongest area. Remember these 4 areas? Which of them do you think is your strongest area? Of all the 4, which of them you think is your niche, if you like, that you perform best? Sometimes, yeah,
after revealing the secret of the my problem,
yeah,
teacher
yeah,
talking time and managing time. يعني
yeah.
after saying these
This
3.
is this is this is your weakest, and we're starting with the good news, not the bad ones.
Yeah, so I will just execute number 3 in the 4, and I can say the strongest, yeah, like giving
Mm.
information,
Uh,
a relationship with the learners.
mm. These are
Uh,
your best areas.
yeah,
And I think the teacher's language, mashallah, Dr. Rabab, your English is excellent. And I would add to that. So giving information, classroom management, and teacher's language. I mean, obviously, you're not, no, we're going
exclude class.
to leave.
بس دكتور محمد, please يعني keep it between us يعني, okay? exclude classroom management from my
Okay.
strengths for now يعني.
No, we're not telling anyone.
Okay.
هنحط بس تسجيل على اليوتيوب.
Just and don't
Yeah,
tell the
go.
head of English department, please.
Let's talk about you, Dr. Muhammad. Which of these 4 areas is your strongest?
Really, I used to giving information. Teacher's language, really, I can't evaluate myself, so others may evaluate me. And what about classroom management? Really, until taking CELTA,
Mm,
it was very weak. Most of the time, I was lecturing
mm,
until really taking CELTA, and you know that Dr. Laura said to me that you are always lecturing. I told her exactly as you said, that's my background all my life, just almost lecturing. That's why I started to take CELTA. I know there's a problem. I am not following rules. I know I'm not following strategies. That's why I took CELTA, and really I changed a lot. And up till now, I feel every day I am applying things and I am improving in this type of teaching and practice English.
nice.
That's
Thank
thanks.
you, Muhammad.
Thanks.
Who else would
Thanks.
Yes, doctor.
yeah, nice.
For me, relationships with the learners.
Mhm. Yeah, I remember you said something about feeling happy about people speaking and using the language. Yes, I could. يعني,
I always
I.
like
Mm,
to make students feel valued and
mm,
understood, and they
nice,
have the
nice.
chance to progress their 4 skills in every يعني I do my best to do this.
Nice, very good. Okay, somebody else? Noor?
Yes, doctor.
Hmm.
I think that can I say the weakest or the strongest right now? I don't know.
No,
I'm
we're
not sure.
talking about, we're starting with the good news.
Good news, maybe relationship with the students, maybe.
Mm. Mm.
How about the weakest?
Now let's
I
let's keep the weakest until we go to the weakest.
okay.
Okay. Anybody else?
Maybe
I mean, we have Fadwa and we also have Elena. If you guys are active with us, Yassine also. Okay, fine. Let's
Yes,
move.
doctor, we
Yeah,
are
Fadwa, hi, how are you?
doing well. How are you, doctor?
Alhamdulillah. So, do you still remember those four areas that we're talking about?
Yes. Okay.
Which of them is your strongest?
Let let me go with my friends or my
Uh,
colleagues. I think the relationship with my students.
mhm. This is
Yeah,
your,
this one,
uh-huh,
my strengths.
nice.
Yeah.
And I think your English is, mashallah, excellent. I would also go for teacher's language and
Thank you, doctor.
yeah, yeah.
I was thinking to ask you about this. You are the one who would give us the evaluation and saying which area that we
I'll
have.
when we go back,
yes, I
inshallah,
agree.
you guys teach online part of the week. I'll walk into classes and um, I'll uh, I'll see for myself. I haven't done that in quite a while. Normally, I walk into classes not to observe as much as to learn new things. I told you that teachers bring very beautiful insights, whether in workshops like these or when they actually teach.
Thank you.
Expect me, Fadwa, perhaps this week. Yeah, because this is we're breaking after this week. We're going to take a break, and that's going to be a long
Yeah.
one, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, doctor.
Well,
Appreciate it.
let's move on. Our weakest area, and this would take a little soul searching. It would also take boldness and courage because sometimes people are in denial about their weaknesses. I told you about my weakness. I told you about this idea of being both a broken radio and if you're a broken radio, it means that you run out of time, right? Again, I am attributing this to the fact that I have been teaching literature for the past 20 years or so. And obviously, teaching philosophy and literature is different from, teaching language classes. Language classes are very organized. You have very clear, and with literature, the aims are very fluid. And I don't have people who would monitor me and say, yeah, you're doing this in a certain way. We should. It's so again, we need people to have this exercise. You need to have people who would walk into your class and see you and observe you and then come out and say, listen, you're doing this and that. Why don't you do this, that, and this, for example? And then you walk into their class and you also observe them and then you come. This idea of peer reviewing is very important. It's very important for the development of the teacher. We used to do it, but obviously this semester is so condensed and so short and so everything. That's why we're not doing it this semester around. Okay, so I told you about my weakest points. How about you? We
As to
know, yeah, Rabab has issues with, has this,
running, yeah, running
yeah, she
time.
loves vocab and, expanding on vocab items and etymology and everything in between, right?
Yes, and
Mm.
I also tried to help myself fixing this problem. But sometimes I set a timer for myself
Mm.
and the computer itself while working. So this will take, when I assign 5 minutes for 5 minutes for this task, I set the timer for 5 minutes. When it just goes off, خلاص, and I just setting a timer keeps me on track. So,
Yeah.
for example, if it's just 5 minutes, means after 3 minutes, I have to finish half of the vocabulary list, something
Mm.
like that. So
Mm.
sometimes this helps me actually.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good practice. Somebody else? We're talking about the weaknesses, if any. Alina, would you like to say something? Okay. So obviously, it's only me and Dr. Rabab who have issues and problems.
No, I spoke
Uh,
Uh,
about I spoke about time management, of course.
yeah, yeah,
That's one of them. Time management really is. I'm struggling to
yes,
adapt myself to it.
yeah. It's a real challenge. Yes.
oh, I remember speaking of the
I
CELTA, I did the CELTA after 15 years of teaching experience. So they just mentioned this, and why are you doing it now? And are you ready to change? You've been teaching
Mm,
using
yeah.
different strategies and techniques for years. And I remember they told me, "What about the saying you can't teach an old fox new tricks?"
Mm,
This is how I help myself. I just took the CELTA as part of being aware of my problems. Of course, I'm not a perfect teacher, and I guess no one is. This we're just trying our best. So once
I
you,
think I took CELTA in order to be fair to the people that I supervise. Yani coming from a literature background,
Mhm.
I thought it wouldn't be very unfair to walk into people's classes and observe them and write reports about them, and sometimes you would have to let some people go. That's why I took. It was a very traumatic experience, by the way, because, like you said, Dr. Rabab, I was perhaps 50 or I was 49 when I took it, and of course. I was so set in my old ways. I was happy about those old ways because I wasn't meant to be a language teacher because I teach literature. This is my area of expertise, if you like. But I found it was traumatic because of the teacher. I did it in what's IH Cairo, and there was this. And I'm not going to mention her name, the lead teacher, a very bad one indeed. What I'm trying to say is that in spite of the traumatic experience, I found ELT and TEFL very organized. We're talking about steps that people have to follow. We're talking about aims that people have. It's not as fluid as teaching philosophy and literature. This is what I liked about it, and that's why I'm reading and a lot into it. Try to push myself and leave what I'm doing and read in the field. It's yeah, it's it's good that you know you set limits to yourself. You try, you experiment with time, and sometimes you fail, and sometimes it works. And
Yeah,
it brings freshness to the whole experience. We're teachers after all, regardless of what we're teaching.
I took
Um,
a case of self-evaluation. يعني I need to evaluate myself. I need to see the weaknesses, and I need to find ways to work on them, to improve them. This is something, I guess, important in everything we do in life. And sometimes we
Yes.
need to consider even our relationships with people around us.
Yeah, it's about reflection and self-awareness, and you need to stop and ask yourself, am I doing the right thing? Because sometimes, like I told you, you're either in denial, or remember when we, the first workshop that we had, when we spoke about this pyramid of competencies, and we said sometimes you don't know that you don't know. And this
Yeah,
is this
yes,
is the challenge. You don't know, and sometimes you are self-congratulatory in the sense that you think that you know, and you think that it's not only that you know best, when in actual fact
you don't know anything.
you don't have a clue what's happening.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
so
even
self-awareness is
Mhm.
very important. Humility when you deal with yourself before you deal with anybody humility. And when it comes to knowledge, it's the more you read, the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know.
sure,
And
sure,
yeah, so if you have this sense and you have this humility, you're going to read more and do research more, and it's lovely, as a matter of fact.
yes,
Let's
of course.
yeah. I think Alina has something to share with us. Um, My weak points are many, as I'm still learning to teach. Yeah, that's very humbling. This is very nice that people are humble enough uh, to yeah. Teaching is about showing humility, and yes, Noor, go ahead.
I have two weaknesses. The first one is
Only
my,
two?
as far as I know,
Okay.
this is what I remember right now.
Uh-huh.
Number one, sometimes I feel like whatever and however I do is not enough. I always have a sense of guilt that this is not enough, I can do better. And this sense is increasing year by year. And weakness number two, I can say that the first class, I feel I have a problem with time management, the first class of the week. But for
Mm.
example, the next class, I feel like I do better in that class, and I cannot recognize the difference. Why did I do better in the second or third class of the week? However, the first one wasn't that satisfying for me. So
Always? You mean always?
not always, but
Mm.
maybe sometimes. But this is something noticeable, you know. I feel it. The students understand, and I make sure that they understand. However, this is something, you know, you feel it with them. So this is also one of my weaknesses. I always feel like the first class of the week is the weakest for me.
Sometimes we have this, we're too harsh on ourselves, and this is good and bad, of course. It can be self-defeating, but it can, kind of move you forward. The idea that if you're not too happy, not to a sickening degree, because if you take it to extremes, it would be very bad. And if you're not happy about your performance, and that would prompt you to go out of your way and read and do research and attend with another teacher, that would be very good, for example. Like exams, when you have a student on the eve of the exam and he or she is very scared.
Yeah.
So this is, and sometimes I tell them, yeah, this is healthy. If you don't feel that way, you wouldn't study. But sometimes if they carry it to extremes and it becomes like an obsession, this is dangerous, because يعني when they go to the exam, it's going to this fear is going to overwhelm them, and they end up either writing nothing. And I have seen it myself. I know of students who were excellent in class, and when the exam scripts come to me, and I find the student, uh, you know, writing nothing, almost
Yeah.
nothing. And you can feel that she was trying to write something, but she stopped. Why would she come to the exam and attempt, right? Obviously, she came, but she panicked, right?
Yeah.
This is the fear that the unhealthy fear that we don't obviously promote or encourage. Yes.
Yes, totally
Yeah.
agree.
Yes. Thank you, Noor.
Also,
Let's move on. Okay, so yani I meant to focus today on classroom management. I think our time is up, but that's why I'm going to leave classroom management and its areas to next time. This is what we're going to focus on next time, classroom management. And when it comes to classroom management, we're going to talk about seating arrangement and interaction patterns. We're going to talk about establishing rapport, giving instructions, checking understanding, monitoring, and correction and feedback. These are the things that we're going to discuss next time, inshallah, when we meet again on, is it going to be Thursday or, yeah, Thursday. I would like to take this opportunity and thank you for this lovely input, those lovely contributions. You informed the conversation. It's one of my my best workshops. The level of interaction and engagement was very high, and I thank you so much for that. You guys have the last word. We can have up to 2 to 3 minutes if you have something to share with me.
thank you,
Really,
Doctor, for your support. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
yes, we appreciate really this, and you know that I get up in the morning, everything in my mind, and I am reflecting on what happened, and really I feel I am very satisfied. So thanks a lot for this great sessions.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Muhammad.
Thank you,
طيب يا
Dr.
جماعة.
Sameh.
You're welcome. Very well. Right. On this note and with this item, we'll come to the end of today's workshop. Thank you so much, and I'll see you inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. Bye bye.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.